At my sister's wedding, my sister laughed. She's just a waitress. Don't expect much from her. Her husband smiled politely and said, "Funny. She approved my raise last week." Everyone turned to me. I still remember the weight of the tray in my hands that night. Not the physical weight. I'd carried heavier, but the way it seemed to anchor me to the floor when my sister's voice cut through the reception hall. "She's just a waitress. Don't expect much from her." The crystal champagne flutes didn't even tremble. My grip was steady. Years of muscle memory, of balancing expensive things for people who rarely looked at my face. But something inside me went very still. Her new husband, Marcus, I think his name was, though I'd only met him twice before that day, smiled in that polite way people do when they're trying to smooth over an awkward moment. His hand moved to my sister's elbow, a gentle pressure, a warning maybe. "Funny," he said, and his voice carried just far. "Enough. She approved my raise last week." The room didn't go silent all at once. It was more gradual than that. A ripple of confusion spreading outward from our table, conversations faltering mid-sentence, heads turning. My sister's laugh, that bright performative sound she'd perfected over the years, caught in her throat. Everyone turned to me. I set the tray down on the nearest table, carefully, professionally, the way I'd been trained. "Excuse me," I said to no one in particular, and walked toward the kitchen. The thing about being invisible is that you learn to move through spaces without disturbing them. You become background noise, wallpaper, necessary but unremarkable. I'd been doing it for 8 years. Not just at the restaurant where I occasionally picked up weekend shifts, but in my actual life. In board meetings, at family dinners, in my mother's house, where photographs of my sister's accomplishments lined the hallway, and mine lived in a drawer somewhere. I hadn't planned to work my sister's wedding. That hadn't been the agreement. The agreement was that I would attend, that I would wear the bridesmaid dress she'd chosen, pale pink, unflattering on my complexion, expensive enough that I'd had to split the payment across 2 credit cards, that I would smile in photographs and make a toast that was warm but not overshadowing, that I would be present but not prominent. My sister Lauren had always been good at agreements. She called me 3 weeks before the wedding. I was in my office reviewing the quarterly budget proposals when my phone buzzed against the dark wood of my desk. "I need a favor," she said. No greeting. Lauren didn't waste time on pleasantries with me. "What kind of favor?" "The catering company is short-staffed. One of their servers quit last minute, and they're completely panicked. I told them you could help out. You know, since you have experience." I looked down at the spreadsheet on my screen. Department allocations. Salary increases. The proposal from Marcus Chen's division sat in my inbox, flagged for review. He'd requested a 15% raise for his entire team. Bold, probably justified, based on their performance metrics. But I hadn't made the final decision yet. "Lauren, I'm a bridesmaid. I can't also be serving drinks." "You'd barely have to do anything. Just during cocktail hour, maybe." "They're desperate, and honestly, you're so good at that kind of thing. You always made it look easy." That kind of thing. As if the 2 years I'd worked my way through community college serving tables was the defining feature of my professional identity. Not the 4 years after that finishing my bachelor's degree at night. Not the entry-level position in HR that I'd turned into a specialist role, then a senior specialist, then a manager. Not the promotion to director that I'd accepted 6 months ago, overseeing compensation and organizational development for a company with 1,100 employees. "Don't think that's appropriate," I said. "Please." Her voice shifted, taking on that wounded quality she'd mastered in childhood. "You know how stressed I am. Everything has to be perfect. Marcus's family is going to be there, and his boss, and I need to know everything's handled. You're the only person I can count on. The only person she could count on to be invisible." "I'll think about it," I told her, and ended the call before she could push further. I didn't think about it. I knew my answer. But Lauren called again the next day, and the day after that. She enlisted my mother, who left a voicemail about family obligation and supporting your sister during important life moments. She sent text messages with photos of the venue, the flowers, the dessert table that absolutely needed to be perfect. I said no 4 times. On the 5th call, she cried. "I should have known I couldn't count on you," she said, her voice breaking. "You've always been like this. Ever since we were kids. You don't care about anyone but yourself." I was in my car when she said it, hands gripped on the steering wheel in the parking garage beneath my office building. The concrete walls seemed to compress the sound, making her words echo. "That's not fair," I said quietly. "Isn't it? When was the last time you did something for me without making it a huge deal? When was the last time you just showed up for me?" I'd shown up for her college graduation, even though I'd had to miss an important meeting. I'd shown up when she got her first apartment, spending my only day off that week helping her move. I'd shown up for every birthday, every holiday, every casual dinner where she talked about her life and barely asked about mine. But those weren't the showings up that counted. Those were expected. Baseline, the kind of thing that disappeared into the background like everything else about me. "Fine," I heard myself say. "I'll do it." "Really?" The tears stopped immediately. Her voice brightened. "Oh my God, thank you. You're literally saving my life. I'll let the catering manager know. Her name's Patricia. She'll coordinate with you." She hung up before I could change my mind. Patricia was a small woman with iron gray hair and the permanently harried expression of someone who'd spent 30 years managing other people's most important days. She met me in the venue's kitchen 3 hours before the ceremony, holding a black apron and a laminated schedule. "You're the sister?" she asked, looking me up and down. "Yes." "You've done this before?" "A long time ago." "Good enough. You'll be on champagne duty during cocktail hour. Just circulate, keep the glasses full, smile, don't spill anything on the bride. Can you handle that?" I took the apron. It smelled like starch and commercial detergent. "I can handle it." The ceremony itself was beautiful. Lauren had always had good taste when someone else was paying for it. The flowers were white peonies and garden roses arranged in cascading centerpieces that probably cost more than my monthly rent. The string quartet played Pachelbel with technical precision. The late afternoon light filtered through the venue's tall windows, making everything look soft and golden and worthy of the photography package Lauren had spent months researching. I stood where I was supposed to stand, wearing the dress I was supposed to wear. I smiled when I was supposed to smile. I cried a little during the vows, not because I was moved by them, but because that's what people expected. And I'd learned a long time ago that meeting expectations was easier than explaining why you didn't. Marcus looked happy. That surprised me. I'd only met him briefly, at the engagement party and once at a family dinner. He worked in product development, I knew that much. He'd seemed quiet, thoughtful, maybe a little overwhelmed by Lauren's family, by my mother's intensity, my father's loud opinions, the way conversations in our house tended to become competitions for airtime. He'd asked me about my work at that family dinner. I'd started to answer, but Lauren had interrupted with a story about her marketing campaign. And the moment had passed. Now, watching him at the altar, I wondered what he saw in my sister. She looked beautiful, objectively. The dress fit her perfectly, her makeup was flawless, but there was something in the way she smiled that made me tired. That performed joy, that careful curation of the perfect moment. I wondered if he'd figured out yet that the perfect moments were the only ones she cared about. After the ceremony, I changed. Not out of the bridesmaid dress, that would come later, but I changed something fundamental in my posture, my expression, the way I held myself. I became the person I'd been 8 years ago when I was actually a waitress and not the director of anything. I put on the apron, I picked up a tray, I became invisible again. Cocktail hour took place in a garden courtyard, adjacent to the main reception hall. White lights were strung between trees. A jazz pianist played standards on a white baby grand that had been wheeled in for the occasion. Guests clustered in small groups, drinking and laughing and complimenting the venue, the flowers, the bride's radiant happiness. I moved through them like water. "Champagne? More champagne? Can I take that empty glass for you?" No one looked at me. Not really. Their eyes might land on the tray, on the golden liquid in the crystal flutes, but they looked through me to get there. I was a function, not a person, a mechanism for delivering alcohol and removing debris. It was remarkable how quickly it came back. The slight angle of the tray for stability, the smooth pivot to avoid collisions, the trained smile that never quite reached my eyes, the practiced neutrality that made me forgettable the moment I stepped away. I saw my mother across the courtyard, talking with animated hands to Marcus's parents. I passed, close enough to hear her voice. "So proud of Lauren. She's always been so driven, so focused. Ever since she was young, she knew exactly what she wanted." I kept walking. I saw my father near the bar, already a little red-faced, laughing too loudly at someone's joke. He waved at me, a vague gesture, the kind you give to staff when you want service, but can't be bothered to make eye contact. I brought him a fresh drink. "Thanks, sweetheart," he said, not looking at my face. I'd been sweetheart for 8 years of actual waitressing. I'd forgotten how much I didn't miss it. Marcus's colleagues were easy to spot. They dressed differently, more conservative, slightly uncomfortable in their formal wear. The way people who spend most of their time in business, casual, tend to be at black tie events. They stood in a loose cluster near the edge of the courtyard, talking shop in the way people do when they're trying to avoid awkward small talk with strangers. I recognized 2 of them from their employee files. Janet Reeves, senior developer, Thomas Park, project lead. Both good performers, both due for promotion reviews in the next cycle. They didn't recognize me. "Champagne?" I offered. "Thanks," Janet said, taking a glass without looking up from her conversation. I moved on. The thing about being invisible is that people talk as if you're not there. They say things they'd never say if they thought you were really listening, if they thought you mattered. I was refilling glasses near the pianist when I heard Lauren's voice, elevated and performative, carrying across the courtyard. "No, it's true. She's been serving tables since college. I keep telling her she should look for something more stable, but you know how some people are. They get comfortable in a rut." I didn't turn around. I knew she was talking about me. "Still," someone said, "one of her friends maybe." I didn't recognize the voice. "It's nice that she could help out today. Family, right?" "Oh, absolutely. I mean, what else would she be doing? She picks up shifts on weekends anyway. Might as well make herself useful." The pianist finished, "The way you look tonight," and transitioned smoothly into unforgettable. The irony wasn't lost on me. I collected empty glasses from a high-top table. A woman in a navy dress was complaining about her boss to her husband. "He has no idea what he's doing. Seriously, no idea. I've been at that company for 6 years, and the incompetence at the management level is just staggering." Her husband made a sympathetic noise. "I mean, I could do his job with my eyes closed. But do I get the promotion? No. Does he even know my name? Probably not." I picked up her empty glass. She handed me her husband's without looking at me. "Thank you," she said absently, already continuing her complaint. I wondered if she'd ever complained about me. The reception hall was stunning. Lauren had been planning this for 18 months, ever since Marcus proposed, and she'd thought of everything. The tables were arranged in concentric circles around a central dance floor. Each centerpiece was a work of art. Flowers and candles and delicate gold accents that caught the light from the chandeliers overhead. The head table sat on a raised platform draped in ivory silk. That's where I was supposed to sit eventually, after I finished serving drinks, after I'd made myself useful enough to be allowed to be visible again. I didn't mind, actually. Being invisible had its advantages. I was standing near the kitchen entrance, waiting for the next tray of champagne, when Patricia found me. "You're good at this," she said. "Better than some of my regular staff." Muscle memory. "Listen, if you ever want some weekend work, I could use someone reliable. The good ones are hard to find." I smiled politely. "I'll keep that in mind." She patted my shoulder and disappeared back into the organized chaos of the kitchen. The doors opened for dinner service. Guests found their assigned seats, settling into chairs that had been arranged with geometric precision. I helped direct a few confused attendees to their tables, pointing to the seating chart displayed on an ornate easel near the entrance. "Table 12, I told an older couple, both slightly drunk and holding hands like teenagers. They thanked me and wandered off in the wrong direction. I didn't correct them. Someone else would. I was supposed to change before dinner. Patricia had told me I could take a break, get out of the apron, rejoin my family at the head table. But I didn't. Something kept me in the space between service and visibility, some reluctance to cross back over that line. Maybe I wanted to hear what else people said when they thought I wasn't really there. Maybe I was just tired of being expected to smile. I stood near the wall, watching the room fill with sound, the clinking of silverware, the murmur of conversations, the occasional burst of laughter. Lauren and Marcus made their entrance to applause, moving through the room like they were floating, accepting congratulations and air kisses and compliments on the flowers, the venue, the dress, the band. Marcus looked overwhelmed. Lauren looked triumphant. My mother tapped a knife against her wine glass, calling for attention. Speeches were about to begin. I should have been at the table for this. I should have been in my seat, ready to stand when it was my turn, ready to deliver the toast I'd written and rewritten 3 times until it struck the right balance of warmth and restraint. But I stayed where I was. My mother's speech was what I expected, loving but pointed, proud of Lauren's accomplishments, her marketing awards, her beautiful apartment, her excellent taste. A few anecdotes from childhood that positioned Lauren as the golden child and me as, what? The footnote, the supporting character, the daughter who tried but never quite measured up. And now she's found Marcus, my mother said, her voice wavering with emotion. Who sees her for the remarkable woman she is? Who loves her the way she deserves to be loved? The implication being that I hadn't found anyone, that I wasn't remarkable, that I didn't deserve that kind of love. I picked up someone's empty wine glass and carried it toward the kitchen. My father's speech was shorter, more jokes, less sentiment. He made a crack about Marcus being brave for marrying into our family. Everyone laughed. He made another crack about open bars and responsible drinking. More laughter. He raised his glass, everyone raised theirs, and the moment passed. Then it was supposed to be my turn. Patricia appeared at my elbow. Hey, I think they're calling for you. I looked at the head table. Lauren was scanning the room, her expression moving from confused to irritated. Marcus leaned over to whisper something to her. She shook her head, waving him off. I'll be right there, I told Patricia. I wasn't sure that was true. I walked toward the table, but slowly, taking my time, watching the room, the people, the way everything was choreographed to perfection, the way Lauren had scripted this entire day, every moment accounted for, every person playing their assigned role. I stopped halfway there. I don't know why I stopped. Maybe because I was tired. Maybe because the apron felt honest in a way the bridesmaid dress didn't. Maybe because I'd spent so long being the person everyone expected me to be that I'd forgotten what it felt like to be unexpected. Someone bumped into me from behind, one of the other servers, carrying a tray of salads. I stepped aside, apologizing, and that's when I heard it. The voice from the table to my right, loud enough to carry, confident enough not to care who heard. She's just a waitress, don't expect much from her. Lauren's voice, crystal clear, bright with contempt. The room didn't stop. Most people didn't even hear it, but I did, and the people at her table did, and Marcus did. I felt something inside me go very quiet. Marcus's hand moved to her elbow, that same gentle pressure I'd noticed before. He said something I couldn't quite hear, low and firm. Lauren laughed, that performative laugh, the one that meant she was dismissing whatever objection he'd raised. And then Marcus spoke again, louder this time. Funny, she approved my raise last week. The words hung in the air like champagne bubbles, rising slowly, catching the light. The table went silent first, then the tables nearby. Conversations faltered, heads turned. Everyone looked at me. I was still holding the empty wine glass, still wearing the apron, still standing in that in-between space, neither server nor family, neither invisible nor seen. Lauren's face did something complicated. Confusion, then comprehension, then a flash of something that might have been anger or embarrassment or fear. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. What? She said. Marcus looked at me, really looked at me, for maybe the first time all day. You're the director of compensation, aren't you? He said. At Meridian Corp? I set down the wine glass on the nearest table. Yes, I said. The silence spread outward like a stain. I didn't explain. That's the thing people expected, that I would jump in, fill the silence, smooth over the awkwardness with some self-deprecating joke or humble deflection. But I'd spent 8 years learning that explanations were for people who needed them. And I didn't need this one. Lauren's face went through a series of expressions, each one more transparent than the last. The performed confusion giving way to actual confusion. Then a dawning realization that something had gone terribly wrong with her script. You said you worked in HR, she managed. I do work in HR, but you're a... She didn't finish the sentence. The word waitress seemed to have lodged in her throat. Marcus was still looking at me, and now I could see the recognition setting in, not just of my job title, but of the specific meeting we'd had 3 weeks ago. My office, 14th floor. He'd come in with his manager to present the case for his team's raises. I'd ask questions about their project deliverables, their performance metrics, their contribution to the division's objectives. He'd been nervous but prepared. I'd been impressed. I'd approved a 12% increase for his team, 15% for him specifically, based on his leadership. "Oh my God," he said quietly. My mother stood up from the head table. "Sweetheart, what's going on? Why aren't you up here?" I looked at her, at the confusion in her face, the social anxiety of a moment going off script, the need to restore order and normalcy, and the proper flow of events. "I was helping with service," I said. "Lauren asked me to." "Well, come up here now. You need to give your toast." I untied the apron, folded it carefully, set it on the corner of the nearest table. "I don't think I have a toast prepared," I said. That wasn't exactly true. I had the toast. 3 versions of it actually saved in my phone, but standing there, feeling the weight of the room's attention, I realized I didn't want to deliver any of them. I didn't want to talk about how beautiful Lauren looked, or how happy I was for her, or how lucky Marcus was. I didn't want to perform gratitude for being included, or sisterly affection I wasn't sure I felt, or hope for a future I had no stake in. I wanted to leave. "I should go," I said. Lauren found her voice. "You can't leave, you're my sister. You're in the wedding party." I was also supposed to be a guest, but that changed. "That's not fair." The words came out sharp, defensive. I recognized the tone. It was the same one she used when we were children, and I'd finally had enough of whatever game she was playing. When I'd walked away from her tea parties, or refused to be the student in her pretend classroom, or declined to participate in whatever elaborate scenario she'd constructed, it was the tone that meant I'd broken the rules, that I'd stopped playing along. "You asked me to serve drinks at your wedding," I said quietly. "You told me it wouldn't be a big deal, that I'd barely have to do anything. You said you'd think about it. I thought you understood." I said no 4 times. The room was so quiet I could hear the ice shifting in water glasses. "You're being dramatic," Lauren said. Her voice had that edge now, that hint of hysteria that came when she couldn't control a situation. "You're trying to make this about you, on my wedding day." Marcus put his hand on her arm. "Lauren, don't." She shook him off, stood up. "Don't defend her. She's always been like this. She can't just be happy for me. She has to make everything complicated." I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and felt nothing but fatigue. Not anger, not hurt, not even disappointment. Just a bone-deep exhaustion with the role I'd been playing. "I am happy for you," I said. "I hope you have a wonderful marriage." "Then why are you leaving?" "Because I'm tired." I walked toward the exit, slowly, deliberately, giving her time to call me back, to apologize, to acknowledge what she'd said and what it meant. But she didn't. She just stood there at the head table, her beautiful dress catching the light, her perfect day fracturing around her. My father called out, "Honey, come on, don't be like this." I kept walking, my mother's voice strained with forced cheerfulness. "Let's just move on, shall we? I'm sure she's just feeling overwhelmed. You know how she gets." I pushed through the doors into the courtyard. The evening air was cool, carrying the scent of the garden flowers and something else, night-blooming jasmine, maybe. The white lights were still strung between the trees, creating small pools of illumination in the darkness. I found a bench near the fountain and sat down. I could hear the muffled sounds of the reception continuing inside. Music starting up. The DJ making announcements. Life moving forward, the script resuming, my absence absorbed into the ongoing performance. I took out my phone. No missed calls, no texts. I pulled up the calendar app and looked at Monday's schedule. Performance reviews at 9, budget meeting at 11, lunch with the VP of Operations to discuss the restructuring proposal, interview with a candidate for senior analyst at 3, my actual life, the one that existed outside this moment, outside my family's narrative about who I was supposed to be. I thought about Marcus's face when he'd realized. That flash of recognition, then embarrassment, then something that might have been respect. He'd looked at me differently, not as his wife's forgettable sister, not as the waitress circulating with champagne, but as the person who'd approved his raise, who'd recognized his value, who had power. I heard the doors open behind me, footsteps on the flagstone path. "Can I sit, Marcus?" Not Lauren, not my mother trying to smooth things over, not my father with his bluff, uncomfortable attempts at mediation. "It's your wedding," I said. He sat anyway, leaving a careful distance between us. For a long moment, he didn't say anything. We both just looked at the fountain, listening to the water. I didn't know, he said finally. Most people don't. She never mentioned, I know. He turned to look at me. The meeting, 3 weeks ago, when I came in with David to talk about the raises, that was you. That was me. You asked about the machine learning integration project, about whether we thought the timeline was realistic. I nodded. I'd asked that because the initial proposal had seemed optimistic, and I'd wanted to gauge whether they understood the actual scope of work or were just trying to impress management. I went back and told my team you were sharp, Marcus said, that you'd asked better questions than our own director had. Did you tell Lauren? He was quiet. No, he said. Eventually. I told her I had a meeting with HR about the raises. She asked if it was with some HR person, and I said yes. Some HR person, generic, forgettable, not worth elaborating on. She talks about you sometimes, he said. Not often, but when she does, it's always, I don't know, like you're this eternal college student who never quite got her life together, who's still trying to figure things out. I have a master's degree, I said, in organizational psychology. I finished it 2 years ago. She didn't mention that. She didn't know. I didn't tell her. Why not? I thought about that. About all the times I'd wanted to share something, a promotion, an achievement, a moment of success, and had stopped myself. Had learned through years of subtle discouragement that my accomplishments were somehow inappropriate, that they disrupted the story Lauren needed to tell about herself. Because it was easier, I said, to be what she expected. Marcus nodded slowly. The waitress thing, the helping out today, that was... I should have said something earlier. When she first made that comment, I should have... You did say something. Not soon enough. You said it when it mattered. He looked down at his hands. She's going to be angry at me for, I don't know, embarrassing her, maybe, or for knowing something about her sister that she didn't know. Probably. I'm sorry, this is your family, I shouldn't be... It's okay, I said. Honestly, it's almost funny. What is? You're apologizing to me at your own wedding reception. He laughed, a short, surprised sound. Yeah, I guess I am. We sat there for a while longer. The music from inside shifted to something slower, the first dance probably. Lauren would be looking for him, wondering where he'd gone, why he wasn't there for this crucial moment, this photographed and witnessed first dance as husband and wife. You should go back, I said. What about you? I'm going to sit here a little longer, then I'm going to call a car and go home. You're really leaving? I'm really leaving. He stood up but didn't immediately walk away. For what it's worth, he said, I thought your questions about the timeline were valid. We did end up revising the schedule, added 3 weeks to the development phase. Good, I said. That was the right call. He smiled. Maybe we could get coffee sometime, talk about the next phase of the project. I'd value your input. You can always email me, I said. That's what I'm there for. He nodded and walked back toward the reception. I watched him go, disappearing into the light and music and the continuation of a party that would probably be beautiful and memorable and exactly what Lauren had wanted, without me there to complicate it. I didn't call a car immediately. I sat on that bench for almost an hour, listening to the muffled sounds of celebration, listening to them fade as the night got later and the party moved into its final stages. My phone buzzed a few times. Text messages. My mother. This is very hurtful. You're being selfish. My father. Can you at least come back for the cake cutting, for the photos? A number I didn't recognize. This is Patricia. You left your apron. Should I hold on to it for you? I responded to that one. Keep it, or give it to someone else. I won't need it. Around 10 o'clock, the music changed again. Last dance. The reception would be ending soon. Guests would filter out, collecting their coats and favors and memories of the beautiful wedding. Lauren and Marcus would leave in whatever dramatic exit she'd planned, sparklers probably, or vintage car, something Instagram-worthy. My phone buzzed again. Lauren, I can't believe you left. Do you have any idea how this looks? I stared at the message for a long time. Finally, I typed, I hope you have a wonderful honeymoon. Tell Marcus congratulations from me. I didn't add anything else. Didn't explain or justify or defend. Just sent it and put my phone away. The thing about being invisible is that you forget what it feels like to be seen, really seen. Not as a function or a role or an expectation, but as yourself, as someone with depth and complexity and value. Marcus had seen me. For just a moment, in his confusion and dawning realization, he'd seen me as I actually was. I wondered if Lauren ever had. I called the car at 10:30. By the time it arrived, the reception was ending. I could see people starting to emerge from the building, calling goodbyes, walking toward the parking lot. I stayed in the shadows near the fountain, waiting. I saw my mother first. She was walking with my father, her face tight with some emotion I couldn't read from this distance. Anger, maybe, or embarrassment, or that particular strain of disappointment that came from a ruined performance. I saw Marcus's parents looking tired but happy. They'd probably loved it, probably thought it was a beautiful wedding, a perfect day. They probably had no idea anything had gone wrong. I saw Janet Reeves and Thomas Park, the colleagues from Marcus's department. They were laughing about something, loose and relaxed from the open bar. I wondered if they'd figured it out, if they'd realized the waitress was their director, if it would be awkward on Monday. I saw Lauren. She was still in her wedding dress, but something about her had dimmed. The brightness was gone. She stood at the venue entrance, scanning the parking lot. And even from a distance, I could read the set of her shoulders, the tension in her posture. She was looking for me. Marcus appeared beside her, putting his arm around her waist. She leaned into him, but not with the performative affection she'd shown all day. This was different, smaller, more real. Maybe she was hurt. Maybe she was angry. Maybe she was starting to realize what she'd lost. The car pulled up. I walked toward it quickly, keeping to the edges of the parking lot, staying out of the light. I heard Lauren's voice call out, "Wait!" But I didn't turn around. I got in the car and gave my address. "How was the wedding?" the driver asked, making conversation. "It was beautiful," I said. "Did you have fun?" "I served drinks." He laughed, thinking I was joking. "Well, that's one way to remember it." I looked out the window as we pulled away. The venue disappeared behind us, all that carefully arranged beauty fading into the distance. I thought about the flowers that would wilt by morning, the food that would be thrown away, the photographs that would be edited and filtered and posted, creating a permanent record of a perfect day. A day I wasn't in, not really, not in any way that mattered. Monday arrived like it always did. Alarm at 6:30, coffee, shower, the careful selection of work clothes, a gray suit, professional but not severe, the drive to the office, the familiar parking space, the elevator to the 14th floor. My assistant, Grace, looked up when I walked in. "How was the wedding?" "Fine," I said. "Your sister looked beautiful in the photos. I saw them on Facebook." "She did." "Are you okay? You seem—" "I'm fine. What's on the schedule?" Grace pulled up the calendar. Performance reviews at 9, budget meeting at 11, lunch with Bill from operations, and Marcus Chen requested a meeting at 2. I stopped. "Marcus Chen?" "From product development. He said it was about the project timeline. Should I confirm it?" I thought about Marcus at the wedding, his hand on Lauren's elbow, his voice cutting through the reception. She approved my raise last week. The way everyone had turned to look at me. "Confirm it," I said. The performance reviews went smoothly. 3 direct reports, all solid performers, all on track for their development goals. I gave feedback. They gave feedback. We talked about objectives for the next quarter, normal, routine, the kind of conversations I'd had hundreds of times. The budget meeting was more complicated. The CFO wanted to cut discretionary spending, which meant fewer professional development opportunities, smaller merit increase pools, less flexibility for retention bonuses. I pushed back, citing turnover costs and competitive positioning. We compromised. Neither of us was happy, which meant it was probably a fair outcome. Lunch with Bill was canceled. He double-booked himself, Grace told me. We rescheduled for next week. At 2 o'clock, Marcus appeared in my doorway. "Is this a good time?" he asked. "Come in." He sat in one of the chairs across from my desk. Not the confident presenter from 3 weeks ago. Not the nervous groom from Saturday. Something in between. "I wanted to apologize," he said. "For what?" "For everything. For not knowing. For putting you in that position. You didn't put me in any position." "Lauren did that." He nodded. "She's upset. I imagine she is. She wants me to ask you to apologize." I looked at him. "To her?" "Yes." For what specifically? For ruining her wedding, for embarrassing her in front of her guests, for making everything about you. I leaned back in my chair. And what do you think? I think, he said carefully, that you have nothing to apologize for. Did you tell her that? I tried. How did that go? We're still working through it. I almost smiled. The honeymoon's not what you expected. We postponed it. She didn't want to leave things unresolved. There was a long silence. Outside my window, I could see the city skyline. 14 floors up, you could see a lot. The buildings, the traffic, the people moving through their lives like pieces on an enormous board. The project timeline, I said. Is that really why you're here? Partly, I wanted to talk about the next phase, the integration challenges we're facing. And the other part, he hesitated. I wanted to understand. Understand what? Why she didn't know. Why no one knew. I considered how to answer that. How to explain the slow accumulation of small erasures. The way I'd learned to make myself small, forgettable, convenient. The way I'd accepted my family's narrative about who I was because it was easier than fighting it. When I first got promoted, I said, I told my mother, I was excited, I thought she'd be proud. What did she say? She said, that's nice, honey. Lauren just got promoted too, to senior marketing manager. Isn't that wonderful? Marcus winced. I stopped telling them things after that, I said. It was easier. But Lauren's your sister. Yes. Don't you want her to know? To understand who you actually are? I thought about that. About the sister I'd grown up with, who'd always needed to be the star of every story. Who'd arranged her life like a stage set, with everyone playing their assigned roles. Who'd looked at me serving champagne at her wedding and seen exactly what she expected to see. I think, I said slowly, that Lauren knows who she needs me to be, and that's not the same thing as who I am. That's sad. Maybe, or maybe it's just the truth. He nodded. For what it's worth, I'm sorry that you didn't get to be at the wedding the way you should have been. I was at the wedding. You know what I mean. I did know. I'd known the moment I put on that apron, the moment I picked up that tray. I'd known I was choosing invisibility over visibility, service over presence. I'd made that choice deliberately, maybe even self-destructively, but I'd also learned something. I'd learned that invisibility had limits, that truth had a way of surfacing, even when you tried to keep it submerged, that sometimes being seen, really seen, happened in the most unexpected moments. The timeline, I said, changing the subject. Talk to me about the integration challenges. We spent the next 40 minutes discussing the project, the technical obstacles, the resource constraints, the dependencies that threatened to derail the schedule. He was smart, I'd been right about that. He saw the problems clearly and wasn't afraid to acknowledge them. When he left, I felt steadier somehow, more settled in my own skin. Grace appeared in the doorway. Your sister's online too. I looked at the blinking light on my phone. Tell her I'm in a meeting. Are you sure? I'm sure. Grace disappeared. The light stopped blinking. I turned back to my computer and opened the next item on my to-do list. There was work to do. There was always work to do. And I was good at it. Better than good. I was excellent. The messages started that evening. Lauren, we need to talk. Lauren, you can't just ignore me forever. Lauren, Mom says you're being immature. Lauren, Marcus says you have nothing to apologize for, but I think you owe me an explanation. I read them all, didn't respond. My mother called. I let it go to voicemail. Sweetheart, I know you're upset, but this has gone on long enough. Lauren is your sister. You need to work this out. Family is the most important thing. You can't just walk away from family. I deleted the voicemail. My father texted. Can we talk? Just you and me? I almost responded to that one. My father and I had never been close, but we'd never been antagonistic either. He was a peacemaker, a conflict avoider. He didn't like tension or drama or unresolved situations, but I didn't respond. The next day brought more messages. Lauren, I don't understand why you're being like this. Lauren, if you're mad about the waitress comment, I was just joking. Lauren, everyone jokes about their siblings. It's not a big deal. Lauren, you're seriously going to throw away our entire relationship over this? I put my phone on silent and went to work. The days accumulated. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, each one bringing more messages, more voicemails, more demands for explanation or reconciliation or acknowledgement. I focused on work, performance evaluations, compensation planning, a difficult conversation with a manager who wanted to promote someone who wasn't ready, a successful negotiation with a candidate who'd been on the fence about our offer, normal things, professional things, things I was good at. On Friday, Grace knocked on my door. "There's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment." "Who is it?" "She says she's your sister." I felt something tighten in my chest. "Tell her I'm busy." I tried. She says she'll wait. I looked at the clock. 3:30. I had a meeting at 4, but it was internal. Low stakes. I could push it. "Fine," I said. "Send her in." Lauren appeared in my doorway. She was dressed for work. Tailored pants, silk blouse, expensive bag, her marketing manager uniform. She looked tired, though. Shadows under her eyes that concealer couldn't quite hide. "Nice office," she said. "Thank you. Big desk, big window, very impressive." "Lauren, how long have you worked here?" 6 years. "And you're the director of, what did Marcus say? Compensation?" "Compensation and organizational development." She nodded slowly, looking around, taking in the diplomas on my wall, the professional accreditations, the small awards from industry conferences. "You never told me," she said. "You never asked." "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" She sat down in the chair Marcus had occupied 3 days ago. "I asked about your work all the time. You asked if I was still in HR. That's not the same thing." "Well, you could have elaborated." "Could I?" She looked at me. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said carefully, "that every time I tried to talk about my work, you changed the subject. Every time I mentioned a project or an accomplishment or something I was working on, you had a story about your job that was more exciting or more important or more relevant." "That's not true, isn't it?" She was quiet for a moment. "You're really going to make me the villain here. I'm not trying to make you anything. I'm just telling you what happened. What happened is that you humiliated me at my own wedding." I felt a flash of something, anger maybe, or just exhaustion. "I didn't humiliate you, Lauren. You humiliated yourself." "By what, making a joke?" "By calling me a waitress in front of your husband's colleagues, in front of my colleagues. They work for Marcus. And Marcus works for a company where I'm a director, where I make decisions about salaries and promotions and organizational structure, where I have actual authority." She opened her mouth, closed it. "Janet Reeves," I said. "Thomas Park. They were both at your wedding. They both report to Marcus, who reports to a VP, who reports to an SVP, who coordinates with my division on compensation planning. It's not a big company, Lauren. People talk." "So what? So you're embarrassed that I said you used to wait tables? That's something to be ashamed of?" "No, waiting tables isn't something to be ashamed of, but using it to diminish me is." "I wasn't. You were. You've been doing it for years. Every time you introduce me as your little sister who works in HR, every time you make a comment about me still figuring things out, every time you frame me as less successful, less accomplished, less worthy of respect." "That's not what I—" "Lauren," I kept my voice level. "You asked me to serve drinks at your wedding. I asked you to help out. You asked me to put on an apron and circulate with champagne while you celebrated the most important day of your life. You asked me to be invisible so you could be the center of attention. You're twisting this." "Am I?" She stood up. "I came here to try to fix this, to try to work things out, but you're clearly not interested in that. What did you want me to say?" "I wanted you to apologize." "For what? For leaving, for making a scene, for making my wedding about you." I looked at her, at the genuine confusion and hurt in her face, at the way she truly seemed to believe that I was the one who'd done something wrong. "I'm not going to apologize," I said quietly. "Then we're done. If that's what you want." She grabbed her bag and walked toward the door, stopped, turned back. "You know what your problem is," she said. "You've always been jealous, ever since we were kids. You couldn't stand it that I was better at things than you, that people liked me more, that I was the pretty one, the popular one, the successful one." I didn't say anything. "And now you've got this fancy job in this big office, and you think that makes you better than me. You think that gives you the right to judge me." "I don't think I'm better than you, Lauren." "Yes, you do. You're sitting there in your expensive suit behind your big desk, looking at me like I'm some kind of I don't know, like I'm beneath you. That's not, it is, it's exactly what you're doing. You're punishing me because I didn't recognize how important you are. Because I treated you like my sister instead of like some corporate executive. I felt something crack inside me, some final reserve of patience or generosity or hope. Get out, I said. What? Get out of my office. You can't just. This is my workplace, Lauren. You don't have an appointment. You're not a client or a colleague or anyone I'm required to meet with, so I'm asking you to leave. Wow, okay, this is who you really are. Yes, I said, this is who I really am. She left. The door closed behind her with a soft click. I sat there for a long time, staring at the space where she'd been, at the empty chair, at the door that had closed between us. Grace knocked softly. Your 4 o'clock is here. Give me 5 minutes. Are you okay? I'm fine. I wasn't fine, but I would be. I pulled out my compact, checked my face in the mirror, fixed my makeup, straightened my jacket, took a breath. Then I stood up and went to my meeting. The weekend was quiet. I cleaned my apartment, did laundry, went to the grocery store. Made meals that I ate alone, sitting at my kitchen counter, reading articles about organizational psychology and compensation trends. Normal things, solitary things. My phone stayed mostly silent. One text from my mother on Saturday night. I hope you're happy with yourself. I didn't respond. Sunday evening, Marcus texted, Are you okay? I stared at the message for a while, then typed, I'm fine, how are you? Managing, Lauren's, it's complicated. I'm sorry. Don't be, this isn't your fault. I almost laughed. She'd disagree. I know. There was a pause, then, for what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Which part? All of it. I set down my phone and looked out my apartment window. I lived on the 8th floor, high enough to see the city, but not so high that people became abstractions. I could see couples walking dogs, families going to dinner, lives being lived in all their messy, complicated, beautiful ordinariness. I thought about Lauren and Marcus, about their postponed honeymoon, about the conversations they were probably having, the recalibrations and revelations that come when you realize you don't know someone as well as you thought you did. I thought about my parents, about the story they told themselves about their daughters, about which one was successful, which one was struggling, about how those stories shaped reality, until reality had no choice but to conform. I thought about myself, about the person I'd been at Lauren's wedding, apron on, tray in hand, invisible by design, about the person I'd been in my office when she'd walked in, professional, authoritative, done with performing. I liked the second person better. Monday morning, I got to work early. Grace wasn't at her desk yet. The office was quiet, still waking up, the fluorescent lights humming their familiar song. I made coffee in the break room, checked my email, reviewed the day's schedule. At 8:30, my phone rang. Internal extension. Can you come to my office? The CEO's assistant, professional, neutral. Mr. Patel would like to speak with you. My heart did something complicated. Of course, when? Now, if possible. I grabbed my notebook and took the elevator up 2 floors. The executive suite had better carpet, quieter air conditioning, a receptionist who smiled like she was being photographed. He's expecting you, she said. Raj Patel had been CEO for 3 years. I'd interacted with him occasionally, budget presentations, strategic planning sessions, the annual leadership retreat. He was smart, direct, and notoriously uninterested in corporate politics. Come in, he said when I knocked. Close the door. I sat in the chair he gestured to. How long have you been with us? He asked. 6 years. And you're currently Director of Compensation and Organizational Development. Yes. He nodded. I had an interesting conversation on Friday with Marcus Chen's wife. My stomach dropped. She called my office, he continued, very upset, said that you'd behaved inappropriately toward her, that you'd used your position here to, how did she put it? Humiliate her publicly. I said nothing. She also mentioned that you'd asked her husband to make you serve drinks at their wedding as some kind of power play, and that when she tried to discuss it with you professionally, you threw her out of your office. That's not, he held up a hand. I know it's not. I spoke with Marcus this morning. He gave me a very different version of events. I waited. He told me that his wife asked you to work as catering staff at their wedding, that she didn't know about your position here, and that when he mentioned it, to clarify the situation, she became defensive and confrontational. That's accurate. He also said you handled the situation with remarkable restraint, that you left quietly rather than making a scene, and that when his wife came to your office, you asked her to leave only after she became verbally aggressive. Also accurate, Raj leaned back in his chair. So let me be clear. You were asked to work as a server at a family event. You agreed, despite the obvious awkwardness. And when your family member publicly denigrated both your past work experience and your current professional standing, you removed yourself from the situation calmly and professionally. Yes. And then when that same family member came to your workplace to continue the confrontation, you set appropriate boundaries. Yes, he smiled. Good, I blinked. Good? Good. That's exactly the kind of judgment I want from my leadership team. Clear boundaries, professional conduct, the ability to separate personal issues from professional responsibilities. Thank you. Marcus also told me something else. He said you've been instrumental in helping his team navigate some complex resource allocation issues, that your insights into their development timeline probably saved the company significant rework costs. I was just doing my job. Well, you do it well. He pulled out a folder. I've been reviewing the organizational structure in your division. I think we need to expand your role. I'd like to add talent acquisition and employee relations to your portfolio. That would make you Senior Director of People Operations. I stared at him. It's a significant expansion of responsibility, he continued. 15% increase in compensation, new title, larger team. You'd report directly to me rather than through the CHRO. I don't know what to say. Say yes, or say you need to think about it. But don't say no because you think this is some kind of consolation prize for dealing with family drama. It's not. It's a recognition of the work you've been doing and the value you bring to this organization. I thought about Lauren, about the way she looked at my office, my diplomas, my professional accreditations, about the accusation in her voice. You think that makes you better than me. I thought about my mother's voicemail. Family is the most important thing. I thought about all the years I'd made myself smaller, quieter, less visible, so that other people could be comfortable. Yes, I said. I'd like to accept. Raj smiled. Excellent. I'll have HR draw up the paperwork. Plan to transition into the new role over the next month. We'll announce it at the next all-hands meeting. Thank you. Don't thank me. You earned it. I walked back to my office in a daze. Grace looked up when I came in. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I just got promoted. What? That's amazing. Congratulations. I sat down at my desk, looked at my phone, no messages. I thought about calling my mother, telling her the news, imagining her response, probably some combination of congratulations and immediate comparison to whatever Lauren had accomplished lately. I thought about texting my father. He'd be proud, I thought, in his quiet, uncomplicated way. I thought about Lauren, about whether she'd care, or whether it would just be more evidence of my betrayal, more proof that I thought I was better than her. I picked up my phone, and then I put it down. Some news didn't need to be shared. Some accomplishments could just exist, complete in themselves, without external validation or familial context. This was mine. 3 weeks later, I was at my desk when Grace buzzed me. There's someone here to see you, says she's family. My heart sank. Tell her, it's not your sister, it's your mom. I closed my eyes. Okay, send her in. My mother appeared in the doorway, looking uncertain in a way I'd rarely seen her. She was dressed carefully, visiting important people clothes, but there was something tentative in her posture. Hi, honey. Hi, Mom. Can I come in? Of course. She sat down, looking around the office the same way Lauren had. But her expression was different, not assessing or judgmental, just seeing. This is nice, she said. Very professional. Thank you. How long have you had this office? About a year, since the last promotion, she nodded. I didn't know there was a last promotion. I know. We sat in silence for a moment. Lauren told me what happened, she said. Her version, anyway. And then Marcus told me his version. And then I talked to your father, and he helped me understand that maybe there were things I'd been missing. Mom, Let me finish. She took a breath. I've been thinking about all the times you tried to tell me about your work, about your life, and I realized I never really listened. I was so focused on Lauren, on her career, her wedding, her plans, that I didn't leave room for you. I felt something catch in my throat. That wasn't fair to you, she continued, and I'm sorry. Mom, you don't have to. I do. I need to say this. She looked at me directly. You are accomplished. You are successful. You are. She gestured around the office. You are impressive, and I should have seen that. I should have celebrated that. Instead, I let you disappear. I participated in my own disappearance. Maybe, but I should have looked harder. We sat there, two women in an office on a Tuesday afternoon, trying to find a language for things that had been unspoken too long. I heard you got promoted again, she said. Senior director, yes. Congratulations. Thank you. Are you going to tell Lauren? I thought about that. I don't know. She's your sister. I know, but she's also someone who needs me to be a certain way. And I can't be that person anymore. My mother nodded slowly. She's having a hard time with all of this. I'm sure she is. He's being very patient with her, but I think she's starting to realize some things about herself, about how she treats people. That's good. Is it fixable? You and her? I don't know, Mom. Maybe, but not right now. Not while she still thinks I'm the one who needs to apologize. What if she does apologize? Then we'll see. She stood up, smoothing her skirt. Well, I should let you get back to work. Okay. She paused at the door. Would you like to have dinner sometime? Just you and me? I looked at her, at the hope in her face. The tentative offer of connection. Yeah, I said. I'd like that. Good, I'll call you. After she left, I sat there for a long time, processing, feeling something shift inside me. Not forgiveness exactly, and not reconciliation. Just space. Room for things to be complicated without being completely broken. Grace appeared in the doorway. Your 2:00 is here? Thanks, give me 2 minutes. I pulled up my calendar, looking at the week ahead. Meetings, projects, performance reviews, the normal rhythm of work. My phone buzzed. Marcus. Heard your mom came by. Everything okay? Me. Yeah, I think so, Marcus. Good. Hey, I wanted to ask, we're having a small dinner party next month. Nothing fancy, just a few friends. Would you like to come? I stared at the message. A dinner party. At Marcus and Lauren's house. With Lauren, presumably. Marcus. I know it's complicated, but I think it might be good. For everyone. Me. Can I think about it? Marcus. Of course. No pressure. I put my phone away and went to my meeting. The days continued. Work filled them. The new responsibilities, the expanded team, the strategic planning for the next fiscal year. I was good at it, better than good. I was excellent, and people were starting to notice. A headhunter called. A competitor wanted to talk to me about a VP role. I took the meeting, more out of curiosity than serious interest. The money was significant. The title was impressive. I turned it down. I like where I am, I told the recruiter. Are you sure? This is a substantial opportunity. I'm sure. And I was, because the truth was, I'd spent so many years being invisible that I'd forgotten what it felt like to be valued for who I actually was. To have my judgment trusted, my insights respected, my contributions recognized. I wasn't ready to give that up yet. My mother and I did have dinner at a quiet restaurant halfway between her house and my apartment. We talked about safe things at first. Her garden, her book club, my father's golf game. Then slowly, we moved toward harder territory. I called Lauren after I saw your office, she said. What did you say? I told her she needed to apologize to you. How did that go? About as well as you'd expect. She smiled sadly. She said I was taking your side, that I never supported her the way I supported you. That's ironic. I know, but maybe she actually believes it. Maybe we all tell ourselves stories that make us the hero and everyone else supporting players. I thought about that. Maybe. She did ask about you, though, about your promotion, about your work. What did you tell her? I told her the truth, that you're impressive, that I'm proud of you, that I should have said it years ago. And she hung up on me, We finished our meal in silence. When my mother reached for the check, I stopped her. "I've got it," I said. "You don't have to." "I know, but I want to." She smiled. "Okay." Outside the restaurant, she hugged me, not the performative hug we usually exchanged at holidays, a real one, close and warm and lasting. "I love you," she said. "I love you too, Mom. I'm sorry I didn't see you. I'm sorry I let myself disappear." We stood there on the sidewalk, two women trying to find their way back to each other across years of accumulated distance. "Dinner again next month?" she asked. "Yeah, I'd like that." Marcus's dinner party invitation sat in my messages for 2 weeks before I responded. Me: "I'll come, but I might leave early if it gets awkward." Marcus: "Fair enough, thank you for trying." The dinner was on a Saturday. I changed clothes 3 times before settling on jeans and a nice sweater, casual but put together, not trying too hard. I brought wine, good wine, the kind I could afford now. Marcus answered the door. "You came." "I said I would." "I know, but I wasn't sure you actually would." Lauren appeared behind him. She looked different, softer somehow, less armored. "Hi," she said. "Hi. Thanks for coming. Thanks for having me." The awkwardness was thick enough to cut. Marcus, bless him, stepped in. "Come in, everyone else is in the living room. There's wine and cheese and—" "I'm actually fine," Lauren interrupted. "We don't need the safety speech." Marcus looked at her, then at me. "Okay," he said. The other guests were Marcus's friends from work and their partners. Janet Reeves was there with her husband, Thomas Park with his boyfriend, a few others I didn't recognize. Janet did a double take when she saw me. "Oh, wait, you work with Marcus?" "Not directly, I'm in people operations." Right, I remember now, from the wedding." I smiled. "Yes." That was quite a moment." "It was." She laughed a little nervously. "Well, it's nice to see you again, in a less complicated context." Dinner was actually pleasant. The conversation flowed. People told stories. Marcus cooked, well, impressively well, and the food was delicious. Lauren was mostly quiet, but not hostile, just present. After dinner, people migrated to the living room. Someone put on music. Conversations fragmented into smaller groups. I was standing by the bookshelf, looking at Marcus's collection of sci-fi novels, when Lauren appeared beside me. "Can we talk?" she asked. "Okay." We went out to the small balcony off the living room. The night air was cool. The city spread out below us, all lights and movement and distant sound. "I've been thinking," Lauren said, "about what you said, about how I made you feel." I waited. "And I talked to my therapist about it, about how I see people, how I need to be the center of everything." "You're in therapy?" "Started a month ago. Marcus suggested it, after the wedding." I nodded. "She helped me understand some things about how I've been treating you, about why I needed you to be—" She paused. "Less than me." "Why did you?" "Because." She took a breath. "Because you were always the smart one, the one who actually worked hard. And I was the one who coasted on being charming and pretty and good at talking to people. And somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that my way was better. That substance didn't matter as much as presentation." "It's not a competition, Lauren." "I know, but I made it one anyway." We stood there, looking out at the city. "I'm sorry," she said, "for the waitress comment, for asking you to serve at my wedding, for not knowing who you actually are, for all of it." I felt something loosen in my chest. "Thank you," I said. "Can you forgive me?" I thought about that, about forgiveness and what it meant, about whether relationships could be rebuilt after being broken down to their foundations. "I think so," I said, "eventually. But not yet." "Not yet," she nodded. "That's fair." We went back inside. The party continued. People laughed and talked and enjoyed each other's company. I stayed until midnight, then made my excuses and called a car. Lauren walked me to the door. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Thank you for inviting me. Can we try again? Maybe coffee sometime?" I looked at my sister, at the hope in her face, the genuine effort she was making. "Yeah," I said. "Coffee sounds good." The coffee happened 3 weeks later, a neutral cafe halfway between our offices. We talked about safe things, work, the weather, a movie she'd seen, Then carefully we moved toward harder things. Marcus told me about your new role, she said. Senior director. Yes. That's impressive. Thank you. I didn't know you'd accomplish so much. I know. She looked down at her latte. I wish you'd told me. I tried for a while, then I stopped trying. Why? Because it was easier to let you have your version of me than to fight for the real one. She was quiet for a long time. I'm working on it, on seeing people, on listening. That's good. It's hard, realizing you've been selfish for years, that you've hurt people without meaning to. But you're trying, that matters. We finished our coffee, made plans for another one next month. Small steps, careful movements toward something that might eventually resemble a relationship. As I walked back to my office, I thought about visibility and invisibility, about the years I'd spent making myself small, about the moment at Lauren's wedding when everything had shifted, about Marcus's voice. She approved my raise last week, about everyone turning to look at me. I'd been so afraid of being seen, of taking up space, of claiming my accomplishments and my value and my place in the world. But being seen wasn't what I'd feared. It was liberating. It was powerful. It was the beginning of something new. 6 months later, I was at a company event, one of those mandatory networking things where executives made speeches and people pretended to enjoy small talk over mediocre wine. I was talking to a new hire, explaining the organizational structure, when I heard a familiar voice. Excuse me, is there a director of people operations here? I need to speak with someone about a compensation issue. I turned. A man I didn't recognize, holding a wine glass, looking around expectantly. I'm the senior director of people operations, I said. He looked at me, then through me. Oh, could you point me to someone who can actually help? I felt something flare inside me, the old instinct to make myself small, to apologize, to step aside and find someone more impressive looking to handle his concern, but I didn't. I can actually help, I said calmly. I oversee all compensation decisions for the organization. What's your issue? He blinked, looked at me again, actually seeing me this time. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were a server? I offered. No, but I have been one. It's honest work. I didn't mean, what's your compensation concern? He stammered through an explanation about salary bands and market rates. I listened, asked clarifying questions, explained our methodology and timeline for the next review cycle. I'll look into your specific situation, I said. Send me an email Monday morning with the details. Thank you, I appreciate it, and I'm sorry for... It's fine. People make assumptions. After he walked away, I felt someone watching me. I turned. Lauren, standing across the room with Marcus. She'd come as his +1 to the event. She walked over. That was impressive, she said. It was normal. It's my job. No, I mean the way you handled him, the way you didn't let him dismiss you. I'm practicing being visible. She smiled. A real smile, not the performed one. It suits you. Marcus joined us. Good speech by Raj earlier. Did you hear he's retiring next year? I did. Word is, they're restructuring the C-suite, adding a chief people officer role. I looked at him. That's ambitious. It's also necessary, if they're serious about scaling. Lauren was looking at me with a strange expression. What? I asked. Nothing, just, you should apply for the CPO role. It's not even posted yet. But when it is, you should apply. Maybe. Don't maybe. Do it. You'd be good at it. Marcus nodded. She's right, you would be. I looked at my sister, at the genuine belief in her face, at this new version of her that was learning to see people, to value substance, to celebrate accomplishments that weren't her own. Okay, I said. When it's posted, I'll apply. Good. We stood there, the three of us, in a room full of people, visible, present, known, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be, not invisible, not performing, just myself, finally.